The Boston Celtics find themselves in a very unique situation heading into this NBA season. With the calendar turning to mid-September, fans can almost smell the start of training camp, the buzz of preseason games, and the long-awaited return of real basketball that actually counts. But as anticipation builds, so do the questions, especially around the Celtics' potential starting five. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Now, there's no denying the Celtics' offseason hasn't gone as expected. With injuries, trades, and roster shifts, the team has more than a few decisions to make before opening night. But what's fascinating is how wide open the starting lineup really is. There's a real possibility that Joe Mazzulla goes in a direction we're not used to, whether it's favoring youth, size, spacing, or simply the most cohesive unit. And thanks to some interesting predictions that surfaced over the weekend, we've got a lot to unpack. Let's start with one of the more surprising projections from Celtics blog. One lineup suggestion included Peyton Pritchard at point guard, Derek White at shooting guard, Jaylen Brown at the 3, Sam Hauser at the 4, and Neemias Quetta locking down the 5. Yeah, Sam Hauser at the 4. That one raised some eyebrows. Look, Hauser has proven he can shoot the ball, no question. But putting him next to Pritchard and White, and essentially asking either him or Brown to guard opposing power forwards, feels like a huge defensive risk. And not just a minor concern, it's a full-on red flag. Defensively, this lineup could get exposed, especially against teams that run heavy through physical, skilled fours. Jaylen Brown is already tasked with a massive role on offense, and expecting him to body up bigger wings or bruising forwards consistently might be asking for too much. As for Hauser, while his shooting can stretch the floor, he's far from an ideal defender in that spot. The one upside here is that it would give the Celtics 4 legitimate perimeter shooters, creating plenty of space for Brown to slash and attack. But that only works if the rest of the unit can hold their own defensively, and that's a major if. What's more intriguing is the role Neemias Quetta might end up playing this season. If Quetta proves he can be a consistent, reliable big, protecting the rim, rebounding, maybe even hitting the occasional 3 like we've seen in EUROBASKET, it could shift Boston's priorities for the future. Suddenly, instead of hunting for a dominant big man, the Celtics could focus their efforts on upgrading the point guard and power forward spots. But again, that hinges on Quetta taking a real leap this season, which is far from guaranteed. Now, let's move over to another version of the starting 5 that feels a bit more grounded. Pritchard, White Brown, Chris Boucher, and Quetta. This one's got a lot more balance. You keep the shooting with Pritchard and White, maintain Brown as your wing cornerstone, and bring in Boucher as your stretch 4/defensive disruptor. If you're a fantasy basketball junkie, you know Boucher is a per-minute monster. Blocks, boards, threes, hustle plays. But here's the catch. Boucher is already 32. If he was going to be a full-time starter, you'd think it would have happened already. Still, if Mazzulla wants to inject some athleticism and defense into that 4 spot, Boucher might be the guy. And let's not breeze past Pritchard either. As some fans pointed out, he's coming off a season where he averaged 14 points and 4 assists on great efficiency, 47% from the field, 41 from 3, and over 84 from the line. His usage rate jumped in games where he got extended run, and he responded by averaging 19 points per game while still maintaining efficient shooting splits. Offensively, he's ready. The only real debate is whether you want him starting or thriving in a 6th-man role, where he arguably did his best work last year. That brings us to another possible look. Anthony Simons at the 1, White at the 2, Brown at the 3, Hauser again at the 4, and Quetta at the 5. Swapping Pritchard out for Simons gives you a bit more of a natural scorer, but raises similar defensive concerns. Again, it's all about trade-offs. Are you willing to sacrifice a bit of defense for more shooting and spacing? That seems to be a theme across every variation of this starting 5. But let's talk about a spicier take, something that breaks the mold a bit. One fan suggested a starting lineup featuring Pritchard, White, Brown, Josh Minott, and Quetta. Now, this one feels more like a gamble on upside. Minott is raw, no doubt, but the advanced metrics are interesting. 96th percentile in block rate and 83rd in steal rate in non-garbage minutes with the Timberwolves. If he can stay out of foul trouble, he might develop into a legitimate defensive presence. That said, betting on him as a day-one starter feels like a stretch unless Boston leans into development mode. And that's where the bigger conversation comes in. What's the plan if the Celtics stumble out of the gate? Let's say it's mid-January, and they're floating around that 7-10 range. If things get rocky, don't be shocked if Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla shift focus. Maybe rest some of the veterans, give younger guys extended run, and see who's worth keeping around long-term. That means more minutes for guys like Minot, Jordan Walsh, possibly even a look at Baylor Sharman or Hugo Santos. And if that happens, maybe, just maybe, Boston ends up with a top draft pick in what's being called a loaded upcoming class. Add a healthy Jason Tatum, a fresh Jaylen Brown, and a rejuvenated Derek White to that mix, and suddenly you've got real championship upside again. But all this hinges on how things go early in the season. The East is competitive, no doubt about it. Cleveland's looking strong, even with some early injuries. New York has continuity and a hungry roster. Orlando and Atlanta made some big additions that could push them forward. The Sixers are still a mystery with their health always in question, and Milwaukee's situation feels more chaotic than stable. Brooklyn has youth, but it's a bit of a mess. Toronto's starting five looks great on paper, but their bench is thin. And Miami? Well, Miami's looking at possibly trading Andrew Wiggins, so that could go either way. Given all of that, Boston might still be in that 5 or 6 seed conversation, even if things don't go perfectly. And that's why the idea of tanking seems unlikely, unless everything falls apart. More realistically, the team will find itself somewhere in the middle of the pack with a lot of what-ifs hanging in the air. The good news? That middle ground gives the Celtics options. They can push forward, make a deadline move, or pivot and test out their younger guys. And while we're on the topic of players finding their voice, let's talk about Derek White and his new podcast. The timing raised some eyebrows, especially after former NBA player Stephen Jackson came out swinging, saying players can't be both successful on the court and on the mic. He even threw a jab at Draymond Green, calling him a super limited player. Now, let's be real. This wasn't just about podcasting. This was personal, but it also brings up an interesting point. Do fans really want their best players investing time into content creation? Honestly, it depends on the player. Most fans don't care if a role player has a podcast. Guys like Trey Murphy, Jalen Williams, or even Tyrese Halliburton doing media projects don't really move the needle negatively. But if your superstar is diving deep into the podcast game while the team struggles, that's where fans might start asking questions. Still, comparing podcasting to gaming or other downtime activities is fair. As long as it doesn't interfere with performance, it's just another outlet. But there's a fine line between brand building and becoming a distraction. And before we wrap this section, we have to give props to EUROBASKET legend Dennis Schroeder. That man continues to show out for Germany, leading his team to a big win over Turkey in the final. Say what you want about his NBA resume, but on the international stage, Schroeder has built a legacy. It might sound wild at first, but don't be shocked if his contributions to international basketball eventually land him in the Hall of Fame. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame, not just the NBA's, and Schroeder's case is stronger than you think. All of this just goes to show that there are no easy answers for the Celtics right now. Every option comes with risk, and the margin for error is slim. Whether they start hot and make a push or stumble early and shift gears, one thing's for sure. The spotlight is on Joe Mazzulla, the front office, and the rotation choices they make right out of the gate. What makes this upcoming Celtics season so compelling is the unpredictable nature of the journey ahead. There's no clear blueprint, no guaranteed plan that fans can cling to with confidence. It's a team in transition, not just from a roster standpoint, but from a philosophical one as well. The question isn't just about who starts or who scores. It's about identity. Who are the Boston Celtics right now without their best player? How do they evolve from the team we've come to know into one that can stay competitive in the ever-changing landscape of the NBA? And maybe the bigger question is, do they try to evolve at all, or do they just try to survive until the cavalry arrives? If you followed this team over the last few years, you know how much has changed and how much hasn't. The Celtics have consistently been in the playoff mix, consistently competitive, and consistently elite on the defensive end. But the moment Tatum isn't available, or if he's even slightly off his game, it becomes clear just how much the team leans on him. That's why this season could end up being a blessing in disguise. As odd as it sounds, the absence of a superstar might force the rest of the roster to grow up fast. It might force Joe Mazzulla to coach differently, to manage rotations with a little more flexibility and creativity. It might even be the catalyst that helps a player like Jaylen Brown finally take that leap into becoming a more complete leader, not just a scorer or slasher, but someone who can elevate those around him. It's worth remembering that Brown just signed a massive extension, and with that comes expectations. He's not the other guy anymore, he's one of the guys. And being one of the guys means you can't afford to float through stretches of games. You can't disappear in the fourth quarter. You can't rack up turnovers when it matters most. What this team needs now more than ever is consistency, poise, and maturity. And Brown has to be the one to set that tone, especially if he's running with a group of younger players who are still finding their way. The same goes for Derek White. No one's expecting White to turn into a 30-point scorer overnight, but there's a real opportunity here for him to become more than just a glue guy. His defense is already elite, and his offensive game has steadily improved. But without Tatum, without the gravity that Tatum brings, the game will slow down. Defenses will key in differently. Every shot will be harder to come by. Every possession will carry more weight. And this is where leadership shows up, not in rah-rah speeches, but in decision-making, in how you handle a double team, and when you shoot and when you swing the ball, and how you keep the team focused when things go sideways. And for Joe Mazzulla, this might be the most important stretch of his young coaching career. Last year, he was thrown into the fire and did an admirable job, but he also had 2 All-NBA wings and a healthy roster for most of the regular season. This year, the challenge is different. It's not just about managing minutes or egos. It's about finding combinations that work, building chemistry in real time, and preparing a team to win games they aren't supposed to win. It's about building trust, not just with the front office, but with the fans who are still unsure if he's the right guy to lead this team long-term. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers around the NBA corridors have grown louder this week as one of Europe's brightest young talents, FRANZ Wagner, reportedly inks a deal with the Boston Celtics, sending fans and analysts into a frenzy. The EUROBASKET sensation, known for his versatile game and uncanny ability to impact both ends of the court, is said to be ready to bring his all-around brilliance to the storied Green franchise. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the rumor mill has been relentless, and the excitement is palpable. Sources close to the situation describe Wagner as a game-changer, the kind of player who doesn't just score, but elevates his teammates and disrupts opponents. At EUROBASKET, the young forward turned heads with a seamless combination of shooting, defense, and basketball IQ, earning accolades as one of the tournament's most dynamic performers. Celtics enthusiasts have been dreaming of a player who could inject fresh energy, defensive intensity, and offensive versatility, and Wagner seems to check all the boxes. Speculation suggests that the Celtics front office sees Wagner as a cornerstone for their next era. His ability to handle multiple positions, guard top scorers, and contribute in transition could make him a key piece in Boston's pursuit of championship contention. Moreover, insiders hint that his presence could free up stars like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, creating a more fluid, unpredictable attack that opponents will struggle to contain. On defense, his wingspan and anticipation make him a nightmare for opposing offenses, potentially transforming the Celtics into a team that can suffocate from end to end. Social media has been ablaze with fan reactions, ranging from cautious optimism to outright excitement. Memes celebrating the next big Celtic have already started circulating, while analysts debate how quickly Wagner could adapt to the speed and physicality of the NBA. Some suggest it might take a season to fully adjust, but few doubt his talent will translate across the Atlantic. The Celtics' locker room dynamics also enter the conversation. Can a young European star thrive alongside established veterans? Early indications suggest the team sees this as an opportunity for a perfect blend of youth and experience. While the deal remains technically unofficial, the buzz is impossible to ignore. Boston could be on the verge of a new chapter, one energized by a player whose European exploits hint at greatness yet to come. If the rumors hold, fans might witness not just a signing, but the birth of a potential superstar whose presence on both ends of the court could redefine the Celtics' identity. FRANZ Wagner to Boston might still be whispers today, but the echoes are growing, louder, bolder, and impossible to ignore. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.